we go. And I'm just going to take a second to see if I can figure out how to make it able so that I can see the chat on this thing. There we go. Yes, perfect. So if you have any questions about any of this, do feel free to speak up, put it into the chat, whatever, get my attention in whatever way works. So the plan for this session is to go through British Rowing's capsize drill for rowers. Normally we would follow this with actual trying it in a pool somewhere. I will organize this when I can figure out how, but there is a lot of value in going over it in a nice warm room and talking through what you need to do. That way, if the worst does happen and the world goes all damp and green, you'll have it in your head already what you need to do to get out of it. So British Rowing quite reasonably says this covers what to do when you capsize, how to recover after a capsize, and how to help others after a capsize. If you are bank party or in a flotilla or just happen to be walking past on the towpath when someone else goes splash, good to know what to do. You will remember last time we talked about the cold water response, which basically was, yes, cold water is bad, get out of it as quickly as you can. The key things to take away from that were the numbers. 1 minute to get your breathing under control, 10 minutes of useful activity to get yourself out of the water, an hour to get yourself warm and dry, right? Which roughly fits with their key messages. You want to get free from the boat, get out of the water, get off the water. And you know from the last time what the cold water is going to do to your ability to do those three things. They will say this, that's highlighting in a rubbish color, never mind. They will say this a lot. Stay with the boat unless doing so places you in greater danger. Your boat floats, your boat is your life raft. Worth noting that, yes, even if your boat is capsized, full of water, even if there is a great big hole in it, it has independent buoyancy compartments, it will float. Very difficult to actually sink, even at 8. Swamping it, getting it so that there is a lot of water in it, yes, you'll remember from the boat race a couple of years ago that you can get it until the gunnels are on the water, but even that boat didn't sink. Yeah. Another point to note here, specifically for the CAM, British Rowing's course covers every river you might row in the UK. In the middle of Windermere, Lake Windermere, you could be in the middle of the Thames, you could be somewhere, I don't know, halfway up the Ouse, miles from anywhere with no bank access. You could even, because British Rowing covers sort of gig rowing, you could even be offshore and going through waves and coastal rowing, which always looks exciting. We won't have that in the CAM, but it is worth knowing how to deal with all of those things, and it's all very similar principles. Even on the CAM, stay with the boat. You absolutely can have swim difficulties in bits of the CAM. You hang on to it unless there's a good reason not to. So, excuse me. There are navigation arrows. So, start out with, why do people capsize? Not capsizing is obviously the easiest way to get out of the water. There are some obvious reasons it happens, right? I would hope I have drilled you well enough to make sure your gate is fashioned before you set off, but hang on, pause that, full screen it. These videos will all be available later, but I'm just going to play this one on. Note his gait. I don't know if you can see it, but I certainly can. And note how long he's managing to row. This is a Wintec. He's managing to row his Wintec perfectly happily with that gate completely up and undone. Holding your breath. He's paddling back into the bum.
Oh.
Yeah, you see how fast he flipped when it finally went. That is a special case. Just worth noting that those things can work their way loose. And if you're putting them in a hurry or not quite paying attention, it is possible to tighten them up so that they're slightly off center so they don't actually interlink. Yeah, you can end up with the two things not tightening it down in such a way that it can still come up. Always double check and give it a waggle just to make sure you don't have that particular embarrassing collapse. Our club president has been known to do that in front of the boathouse and in front of a crew. Anyway, the other thing that's most likely to put you in is a collision. This is a fairly minor collision, but again, we'll show. Whoop. Bump. Yep, you'll see he's immediately out of the boat, relatively low drama, but just take a look at the thing that he hit. That didn't jump out at him from nowhere. That is a big navigation buoy. It is marking the edge of the channel he should be in. So he was off center to start with, and then he didn't even see it. Hang on. I just back up a little. You can see just there, he's hit it and it's flipped his blade out. He's flipped his handle completely out of his hand. You've all had me giving you drills of how to run your blade in, lift it up, put your hand behind you. This is why I make you do the drills. Because when it happens accidentally, right now he's balanced. Yeah, he's leaning onto that hand. It's perfectly fine. When I play it, boom, he leans to the right and just tips himself straight in. And again, once you've got no blade out there, you've got nothing you can do to catch it. So both of those people absolutely fine and slightly embarrassed, but both of those were totally avoidable. One of them really silly, one of them moderately silly. So ensure your gate is securely fastened. Yeah, I know. Avoiding collisions, that is something that happens a lot on the Cam. When I say the Cam is a safe river, it is and it isn't. There are different risks we need to be aware of compared to the Thames. You know, the Thames does not have crossover points. It does not have the gut. Actually, Tideway does have crossover points, cancel that. But it does not have narrow patches. It does not have 3 crews trying to cram into a 2 crew space. That's something that is more likely on the Cam. You keep a good lookout. You make sure that you're aware of what's going on behind you. Follow the circulation plan. Don't be tempted to cut corners or dive across in front of people, and you practice what I like to call eventualities. You practice what happens if your blade gets knocked out of your hand because some fool is on the wrong side of the river. You practice how to slam the brakes on. You know, you practice the swerves and the stops and everything that I drill you. Okay, it's all about behavior. True. It is fair to note, sometimes if I've got you doing particularly funky balance drills, you will be closer to the edge of a capsize than normal. And honestly, if you never capsize when you're doing silly balance drills, you might not be trying hard enough. We might be able to push you a little bit further. It will happen at some point. If it's not at least a possibility, then you're nowhere near the edge of your comfort zone. And any good coach will find something more crazy for you to do. So
perhaps in the summer?
Yes, I will not get you to do that right now. There's a reason we did cold weather first. So the avoidable ones, the ones that weren't because you were pushing the limits of your balance, are things we would like to avoid. Collisions we would definitely like to avoid. So moving on. There are a few videos here. There is one long video from British Rowing that's about 15 minutes. I will go through and talk through and add a bit of extra and give you the chance to ask questions. So get free from the boat, get out of the water, get off the water. So far, so obvious. Might as well cover this now since we're covering it now. Always stay with the boat unless there's a problem. Either the boat is actually sinking. It has been a weird accident if you have managed to puncture 2 independent buoyancy compartments, but it is possible. Or if you're likely to be hit by something, swept downstream by something, or if someone else is offering to rescue you. That, again, very much a sort of big river tideway kind of thing, but it's worth noting. We would like you to bring the boat back, but the boat can be fished out from the top of a weir somewhere much easier than you can. So, capsize and recovery drill, says British Rowing. Let's just watch. That's annoying. Right. Is it really going to make us play all of this? Bear with me. I think something's gone wrong there. Following video, and there is 3 key steps if you do fall in. Ah, yeah, I see. Okay, as you were. Okay, I said I was going to add some commentary to this. When she's doing the capsize and she's completely inverted like this, that is not normal. You would very rarely even end up with your head underwater. You would be making an effort to get out long before now. The whole principle of this is we're teaching you about the worst case. Okay, you go into the Thames in January with no launch around, and it happens so quickly that you're upside down. Right. The reason what she's doing is she's got her arms completely wrapped around the hull, and she's going to wait for the boat to invert completely. And in fact, she's going to be told to tap on the top of the hull just to make sure that she has been under there for, long enough that she's stable. Then she's going to release herself and get out. Okay. This still that I have frozen it on there is a little bit misleading. Also, if you want to induce a capsize, just chucking both handles behind you, really good way to do it. Boom. Boom. Oh, sure. Just leave her underwater while you explain. Right. Boom. He'll go into more detail. There we go. They will reiterate that point about the boat is your life raft a lot. I mentioned last time British Rowing are very good about sort of safety, about taking accident reports, and where was I? Yeah, taking accident reports and learning lessons from them. Rowing is ridiculously safe. The very few times you have someone drown, it's because they decided that they could swim for the bank, almost invariably. When I did my coaching course, they could find like 2 examples, but there was a common factor. Right. The videos will go into more detail on all of those things later. Done. Oh, and in fact, here we have get free from the boat. So a lot of the concern people have is that they're going to get stuck with their feet in the boat upside down. Practically, if the boat is properly adjusted and those heel restraints are in place, your feet will just come out. particularly if you're rowing with kind of one size fits most shoes. You have difficulty keeping your feet in at the best of times. This is what to do in the very unlikely off chance that it doesn't. Boom, boom. You don't need to do that. This is just for training. That's it. That's all you're talking about. Okay. So important point there. You will not be completely inverted with your head underwater tapping on the hull. That's just for practice, just to show that you are, properly inverted and thinking about what you're doing. More likely, you're going to have your feet in the shoes and your head above water and be in an awkward kind of pretzel shape. Not that you get many pretzels in England, but you know what I mean. The trick they teach to make sure you can get at your shoes is to find your bum. With one hand, if you really need both hands to find it, then we can arrange coaching later. And you slide your hand down your leg, right, until you found your foot. That way, no matter what angle your leg's bent at, you will get to your foot and you'll get to that quick release thing. It is worth noting, if you have a boat where those heel restraints aren't done up, or if that pull cord in the middle in between the shoes is a bit frayed and doesn't look like it does very much, flag that as a problem. That boat is not safe if you capsize. You do need it to pull all of the Velcro away if you pull that tab. A number of the boats in Cantabs are not great about that. Sometimes the heel restraints go missing. Flag it up. Right. If they are correct, and British Rowing is ridiculously picky about it, must be 5 centimeters, no more. If it is correctly adjusted, your feet will come out pretty much automatically. Done. Right. Getting out of the water. So this is getting your body out of the water so you're not losing heat. Remember from the cold water video, you lose heat 25 times faster or whatever it was, 24, if it's in the water. Get your torso out of the water and cold water becomes less of a problem. Again, you may be right next to the bank and this may not be a problem, but if you need a minute to figure out what on earth's going on, you climb up onto the boat. We'll watch the video and then talk through the points here. I thought you were going to give us a little bit more than that, but fine. Down here at notes, writing and climbing back into your boat is not recommended. Yeah, we'll go through that later, but they make a valid point. It is tricky. I've done it in the training session. It's not, most people will not be able to do this. Most people can do it when there's no stress and no panic. If the water's cold and you're thinking, my God, must get out, it might be a bad idea to keep trying. Not least, the common failure mode is to jump right over the boat and fall in headfirst on the other side. You don't really want to dunk your face in the cold water again. Climbing back into the boat often results in damage. Maybe. Yeah, by far and away, the most important thing is if you try it, fail, try it again, fail, you're going to start panicking. You probably want another option unless you're very confident you can do this. Getting out of the water will get you less cold quickly, make you visible to rescuers and passing craft. Fine. Again, this is a Thames thing. On the cam, it's pretty obvious if there is an upturned sculler somewhere, but it is, if you need help getting out, it is worth making sure the people who can help you can see. Okay, continuing. So, different ways to recover the boat. So what we're thinking about here is, how do we get from the capsized position, floating next to the boat, holding on to it because we don't let go of it. How do we get ourselves to safety? The bank, basically. If you were in a really big river or a lake, it might be get yourself to a launch, but basically get to the bank. And we will go through the various ways we can do this. The straddle and paddle. You can probably figure out what the video is going to show, but I'll play it anyway. Note that both of the riggers are in the water, both of the blades are in the water. This is not a boat that's moving quite as efficiently as it could. It is stable. You've got the two blades floating as effectively as pontoons. If you can clamber on top of it, that is a perfectly valid option. Also quite entertaining to do in a swimming pool. I will just come back to the point where she was turning the boat over. Right. Now she very cleverly put a foot on the rigger there to start it rotating so that she can grab this one. You'll note as the boat comes over, she's putting an arm up to protect her head. You really do not want to get out of the capsize perfectly safely and then concuss yourself with the rigger as it comes over the top. So you sit where she is now, and you just protect your head as it comes over. Boom, like so. It's been filmed by a crew from Bedford, this one. Spotted the thing there. So that whiz, you can get reasonable distances like that. You can paddle the length of a swimming pool relatively quickly. Not quite swimming levels of quick, but you can cover a medium distance sort of on the cam. Buddy rescue. Wouldn't often use this on the cam, but we will show that this is possible. Recommended where Buddy is a strong sculler and the conditions are good. This is a tricky one for the other sculler, but this is kind of part of the reason we suggest going out in a flotilla. Let's watch. There you go. Can't think of many places on the cam that you would really do that, but if you were in difficulty, if you couldn't swim your boat to safety for whatever reason, either climbing onto the back of someone else's boat or hanging onto their rigger while they tow you to the bank, that gets you out of the water, starting that process of getting warm. The boat, if necessary, can be rescued later. It's not getting swept anywhere. It'll get stuck in a tree, and we'll just have to take the launch down to get it. That is not the end of the world. Right. I'll do tow the boat next. The prolonged time, yeah. So this may be acceptable in benign conditions and if it is a very short distance to the bank. Yeah, that describes basically all of the cam. This is what you would do practically speaking, pretty much anywhere. I'll run through a few of the cases where it might not. Wading could also be an option. Large amounts of the cam, you can stand up next to the bank. Bits of it, you will struggle to even capsize the boat because the riggers will hit the bank, the bottom. Yeah, let's watch and see what they say about it. Correct. Worth noting, sitting on top of the boat buys you a few minutes just to calm down and think about what you're going to do next. You're out of the water, you're not getting cold super quickly. It's the cam, you're not getting swept over anything anytime soon. You can sit there and make a plan. Right. Practically, where did we go? She goes all the way to the bow to push the boat. You could also, oh, for goodness sake. Apologies. You could also grab it from the middle of the boat where she was just about to, if all you have to do is push it a few feet to the bank. You'd figure that one out for yourselves pretty quickly. Right. Throw lines. We might as well watch the throw line video. I'm sure anyone who has bank partied the juniors has been handed a throw line. Whether you've actually been told how to use it or not, different matter. Let's watch. Oh, that was it. Okay. Right. You have someone there floating in the water. The chap is throwing the entire rope, bag and all. You hold on to the handle at the end. There we go. The person grabs onto that. They can now let go of the boat, and the guy on the bank just keeps a nice steady pull on the rope and pulls the person towards them. What you find there is, as the person being pulled is hanging on with the arms, the feet drag behind them, and the body's naturally kind of planing, so it picks the head up and out of the water. You can get people pretty much chest high out of the water if you're being a little bit competitive about it in a swimming pool. Do not be competitive about it if you actually need to pull someone out with a throw line. But that is a relatively safe way to get someone to the bank. Again, we can rescue the boat later. They don't actually show her being towed, do they? That's a shame. Yes, yes. Cool. Fair point. Would also be possible, again, given the super small river that we've got, to chuck someone a throw line and then pull both them and the boat back to the side. It's another option you could use.
So in the cam, how far can you stand? So around CRA, I assume you can stand.
Absolutely.
And then where do you stop being able to stand? Is that where the
So I'll run through this a bit later. Let me just check. We'll run through the rest of this. Oh, they do have something on using a throw line. There we go. There's a few more slides and amusing videos here. And then they talk a lot about para rowing, which we don't need to go into right now. You can imagine if you're a trunk-only rower, if you've seen them, they're strapped into the boat by the trunk-only, arms-only rower. They're strapped into the boat by the chest. There are extra stages to dealing with capsize for them. We don't need to go into that right now. Right. In fact, yeah, the next one is that. So let's watch these. If any of you are familiar with javelin, shot put kind of things, that's basically what he's talking about here. This is how to get as much distance on the throw bag as possible. Again, you can clear the cam pretty easily, but this is worth knowing. Boom. Do keep a grip with your left hand, sir. The rope unwinds as the bag travels. Yeah, all right, I'll give you that one. Well done, that man. Okay. Point they didn't mention there. If you've thrown it once and missed, might happen, you should probably throw it again. You don't really want to pack it all back in again. That is going to take a while. So what you do is scoop some water into the throw bag. Make sure the rope is somewhere where it'll uncoil and throw the water-filled throw bag. Note that you are trying to get it over the person you're rescuing. You are not trying to hit them with it. Bullseyes do not get extra points. How long is the stuff? Actually, this will be worth noticing, worth watching. Not so much because you're ever likely to need to repack it. If nothing else, once it's been used, it needs to dry overnight. Someone else will probably do it, but because it'll give you an idea of how it comes out of the throw bag as it's being thrown. These appear to have been done by whitewater rafters. I'm inclined to believe them in rescue. sorry. There we go. Worth familiarizing yourself with the Cantabs throw bags just because they're all designed slightly differently. Crucial point to remember is keep hold of the rope with one hand. They are relatively simple when you get used to them. Okay, so that is everything here that's not adaptive rowing, which we can go into later. What I'm going to do now is, where did it go? I have spent the afternoon, I've taken the day off work to sort out stuff and then gone and typed up rowing stuff, of course. So what I've got here is a little list of navigation points on the cam, what to look out for, where you can get in and out of the boat. Particular hazards. What I'm going to do is distribute this around various scullers, and we can all add things to this. If there's particular points that pop up that we need to be aware of, it'll make a nice little reference in future. Particularly for those of you who've been on the reach but not done the crossovers and the corners, helps to read up on that so that you have an idea what to expect. So I'll go through it from Cantabs to the reach and back, just explaining what we've got. Generally in the cam, if you're right in the middle, you're probably not going to be in your depth, unless you're in M1 and are 6'7". Edges you will normally be fine with. So from Cantabs, it's a blind corner. It's a nuisance. The south side you can access. So when I say the south side, the meadow side, the non-CRA side, you could argue whether it's south side or slightly east side, but no, I don't mind. North and south. If you were to go in between sort of Cantabs and Green Dragon Corner, probably just tow the boat back to Cantabs. But if you had to get out, there are slots in between the parked narrowboats, usually. That is one of the places where you might actually have to move the boat, more than just the 6 feet to the bank, at which point you just saw in the videos, you can watch again, you can tow the boat, you can get on the boat and paddle it, you can right the boat and get on it and paddle it. Any of those would be okay for that kind of distance. Once you're around Green Dragon Corner, you've got access to the bank on the south all the way along. You've probably not really paid attention, but there is a spillway, a ramp into the water. About halfway down, you can literally walk out of the cam at that point. If they ever end up with a cow jumping in, that's where they get it back out. On the north side, you can't really get out. It's all the expensive houses there. If you were in dire need, you could, but they have quite high banks as well, so it's not going to end terribly well. From the P&E, you get the towpath, and basically the whole of the towpath from there to Baked Bite, you can get out and in and out of the boats there. It is almost always you could stand up on that towpath as well. That is always a safe option to go north. Yeah, I think that's fair to say. From anywhere from P&E spin zone all the way downstream, going north is fine. Should you be on the other end of the river, useful to know what you can and can't get away with. Where were we? Generally, if you need to move the boat any distance, it'll be because there are park boats on both sides. That stretch around up until the railway bridge, one of those points. It can, I think if all the narrow boats are parked, all the spaces are taken up, you could end up with quite a gap on the south side. Just swim across the river to the north side, push the boat, the whatever, 20 feet you need to, and be ready to shout at people who aren't paying attention, because some people have a blind spot when it comes to upturned boats. Broadly, going north is fine. On the reach, you are all aware that the wind is horrible across there. That is one of the things that might cause you to go in. Where was I? Yeah. Should you need to get in and out of the boat in a semi-planned manner, the railway bridge is actually a good place to do it. The south, shallow, very shallow. You will ground blades on that bank. I have done it a number of times, which means the water is calf deep at most. You will be able to right the boat and get back in it. As I mentioned, that is the point where you could conceivably capsize and have your rigger hit the bottom. That is not a deep bit of water. And you have, even where it is deeper, you have access to the bank all the way along. That's fine. Right the way into Ditton, you have shallow water on the south, access to the bank on the north. The middle is the deep bit. If you're in the middle, either for slightly dodgy steering reasons or trying to overtake someone, that's where you might not be able to get your feet under you, and you need to push it to one side or the other. Okay, so you can see there's a reason I keep sort of semi-experienced novices to the reach. It's pretty easy to get out of. It's pretty difficult to get into major trouble with. I will go
Sorry,
over.
Dave,
Go ahead.
Are you showing us the?
I'm not showing you the map.
On
no,
the
I need
screen?
to. No. Oh, beg your pardon. Yep, I am screen sharing the wrong screen. Where did it go? There we go. You should now have. That was silly of me. You should now have this list. I will circulate this later so you can review it and add to it if you feel the need. So yeah, from Cantabs, Green Dragon Corner, P&E spin zone. I'll add a map here as well so that people who aren't automatically going, oh yeah, the P&E, know what we're talking about. Right. The bit where you might genuinely have problems is if you're taking boats from CRA and coming up to the reach. That has what we refer to as the wall on the south side, which is a concrete wall all the way from the bit outside the CRA that we do the beginner sessions in, right the way up to outside Cantabs. So the south side is no longer an option. That is where you might want to consider the pushing the boat strategies. You're probably going to want to think about climbing on the boat and paddling it, because it's going to be, could be 100, maybe 200 yards to the nearest place you can sort yourself out. That is where we might like to consider actually getting in the boat. I will show you how this, somewhere I have the list of how this is done. Bear with me. Like I said, British Rowing does not officially recommend this, but it is worth seeing it. If you can practice it in the pool, it's a useful, there we go. If you can practice it in the pool, it is a useful tool in your toolbox. What am I sharing? Am I sharing the Capsize and Regain video?
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. Right, we'll watch this. I know it's from the other place, but it is quite a good one. Also, good music. Boom. He's going to do this nice and quickly. So, first step is to write. Oh, he's going to talk through it. Like we saw in the first video. Right. He did that remarkably expert. I think he's the guy who demonstrates this for them a lot. You may find what you have to do is get one blade in the right place and then swim yourself around the boat to get the other blade in the right place. We're basically getting the boat set up in the same position that we use when we're getting in it normally. Handles forward and together, blades flat on the water. Okay, he's actually kneeling up in it. He is showing off there. So what he also jumped off the bottom of the pool, tut tut. But it's exactly that principle, the jumping out of a swimming pool. You're trying to get your center of gravity, which is basically your belly button, over the middle of the boat. Once you've got that, you've got your balance. It's just a question of squidging yourself around until you're sitting up. Right. That is possibly the most difficult bit, and if you can't stick that, then it's time to go back to the other options: the pushing the boat, the towing the boat, the climbing on top of the boat. He made that look quite easy. Conventionally, what you would do would be to wriggle yourself around till you're sitting with your feet in the water. So you're not any high, your body isn't any higher than necessary. And then you'd wiggle your feet around so that you're then sitting broadly in a rowing position. From there, you either get back on your seat and row it to the side, or just paddle it arms only to the side, and then sort yourself out properly. Important to note, that boat is now full of water. It is going to be somewhat squidgy to row, and it's also going to be quite heavy and quite low in the water. You probably want to get yourself to the bank and tip the water out, and then you probably want to take yourself home. Right. Let's just see him sit himself down. He does a lot of balance drills. There we go. You can see a couple of other videos of that on YouTube. It's all variations on a theme. Basically, get your body weight central over the boat, and then whatever undignified wiggle you need to get your feet in the right position and yourself sitting upright. If you can't do it, if you have the failure mode of diving straight over the boat and dunking your face in, give up and go back to the options we discussed. Happy days. Right. The notes for all of this will go up on this index page that I'm building up, as will a couple of, sort of capsize and regain drills. And I'll circulate this list here, which hopefully you can see now I'm sharing the right screen, with all the hazards we need to look out for. The bit on the cam I will be most nervous about is that trip from CRA to Cantabs. There are a couple of ways out. There's the combined boathouse. There's a couple of fishing platforms, but that's the bit where I would not encourage you to stop and do any silly balancing drills. Everywhere else, you have good bank access. If you go in, it is a case of paddle to the bank, get out, take a second, figure out what you need to do next. Happy days. Right. So we said right at the start of this that we were going to look at how to get out of the boat, get out of the water, get off the water. So do we think we're happy with that? Yeah, you are allowed to come off mute and talk.
In theory.
Absolutely. You
Yeah,
won't entirely know until the first time it's happened. But just like anything else, the more you practice it, the more you think about your options, the easier it'll be for that training to kick in when you're there.
How did you get out, Barbara? Because you fell in, didn't you?
Yeah, right in front of the Goldie boathouse.
Oops.
Yeah, but it was in summer and you just fall out basically. And I think my head was not even underwater. So you're just in a weird position and then you get out of your shoes. And then I was cursing quite a lot. And then you swim to the bank with the boats and then tilt it over, get the water out and hop back in. And then you roll back. That's it. But you know, I was wondering about, because when Carol fell in, he had quite a bit of trouble getting back in on the reach because the bank is quite high. So he had a bit of trouble getting back in. That took quite a while. So
that is true. Yes, the reach is not somewhere you choose to park and have a little chat. Definitely helps to have a bank party to hold the boat, to help you clamber in. By that point, you're out of the boat. You're not in any danger. If you have to just hold a blade and walk the boat until the bank gets flatter, that's what you do.
Yeah. Also, I was wondering about the launch. Who can drive it? Because I was thinking maybe I would really like to learn how to do this. Or are we doing this at Cantabs? And
yes, so it is the Cantabs owned launch. There are a list of people who can drive it. I can drive it. It's not that complicated, really. Worst thing is steering it. We have the slight downside, apart from COVID, we have the downside that the engine has been nicked. It has been nicked
again?
for the second time in a row. We are figuring out how we can keep a launch available and have it actually available and not have the local tow rags pilfering it. Very rare. It basically only goes out as safety cover for races. It's a long time since we've actually needed to use it, but it is there if we needed to go and tow a boat back. Generally, you would try, if you actually can't get a boat back for whatever reason, try and secure it somewhere and call someone at the club. If you can't move it, either because it's damaged or you can't move it, then you can't move it and we'll fix the equipment once we fix the people.
Yeah.
Having a contact number of someone at the club in a phone would not be a bad idea.
Yeah. And then also I was wondering, because, you know, like when I'm coaching, probably in the future, I will bring a spare set of clothes just in case. I think it's not a bad idea. And this blanket you showed us the other day.
Indeed. I mentioned last time having a space blanket in your bag is a virtually zero effort way to have something to warm people up if they do get cold.
Yeah. I'm thinking about getting a bit of a bigger dry bag so I can even have a spare set of clothes.
Yep. I circulated last time and it's on the list somewhere again. I should put it on the list. A list of things I'd advise to put in a dry bag. You don't need a large dry bag, but yeah, something with capacity. So if I give you all that, let you review the navigation stuff at your leisure, and give you the video that British Rowing did, are we all as happy as we can be? Or let me phrase that differently. What would make you happier about the possibility of going splash?
Nice sunny day.
I'll get right on that.
Yeah, a pool session would be
The
really,
same
really
pool.
good.
Practicing at a
Yeah.
pool would make me feel more confident, I think.
Yeah, also because I might go to Austria again, and there it's a bit deeper, so so I won't be able to stand up, and in the middle of there you really want to get back into the boat somehow. So I would love to
Indeed.
practice that. Or a lake. Maybe at one point we're all gonna go to a lake, and they're deep sometimes.
If
Yeah.
we practice in a pool, we can practice during winter months. I mean, when this lockdown is over, maybe. I don't know.
Quite possibly, yes. I really do need to send some emails and find out how we can how we can manage to arrange putting rowing boats in a swimming pool. I don't think it's something they see very often, but yes, that can be arranged.
I found using the throw lines quite difficult.
Yes.
I tried it and I didn't get it very far, so I don't think I'd be very helpful to try and save someone with it.
Yeah, it does. Like the guy was saying in the video, there is a bit of a technique of really getting some distance on it, but again, getting it across the cam is not that tricky so long as it's been packed properly.
I didn't get it very far when I tried.
That is one of the things we can practice, and in fact should practice in the pool session. And you can also play with how hard you can pull on the line and surf people along the top of the water. But yeah, that is a valid point. It is something that once you've used it a couple of times, you suddenly understand how to use it. Anything else people would find useful?
I think the practice would be really good at some point.
Yep, sounds good to me. Don't tend to push people into the cam if we can avoid it, particularly not over the winter, but we'll see what we can arrange. Cool. Any other questions?
No.
No.
Awesome. In which case, thank you very much, folks.
No, thank you.
Thank you so much.